Update: Am I the butthole for telling my stepdaughter to go ask her real dad when she asked me to pay for her plane tickets? Hey guys. It's been a good 2 weeks since I've posted and I figured you guys would like an update. A lot has happened since the last time I posted, so that night, I did what many of the comments suggested I do, which was to apologize. I told her that I'm sorry, that implying that I'm not her real father, but like it or not that I consider her my daughter. That I loved her and will always be there for her. She started to cry and sob uncontrollably and said, why doesn't he, her biological father, love me? I held her and told her she didn't need to fight for his approval. I also apologized for looking through her phone, that I've come to accept that it's not an appropriate punishment for a teenage girl, and I was going to find other alternatives. Lastly, I brought up therapy, and while she was hesitant at first, I let her know it was nothing to be ashamed of, that everything she said at therapy would be entirely confidential, and that it could help to have a confidant to help her sort through her feelings. She sat on this for the day, but the next day let me know that she was ready, so I set up the soonest appointment, which was last Friday, and her second appointment this afternoon. It's only been a week, so I don't want to get too optimistic, but honestly I feel like I'm noticing an improvement already. She's actually been engaging back in small talk when normally she wouldn't give me the time of day. She's been following all of the rules, coming home at a reasonable hour. She's been less withdrawn and more social, even to the point where her brother commented on the change today. But the most exciting news of them all is when getting out the car on her way home from therapy, she said, and I quote, "Thanks, Dad." She's never called me Dad before, so honestly I've been riding off that high for the last 2 hours. I'm not delusional enough to think everything's peachy, but honestly the behavior change in the last week was the most progress we've had since, well, ever. I'm cautiously optimistic going forward. Thanks again everyone for your comments, especially the ones who gave me the kick in the ass I needed. Web link. I commented on your first post. Very happy to see this heartfelt update. I personally thought that you were for the most part NTA, but still good on you for taking criticism so well and using that to strengthen your relationship with your daughter. A lot of people in your shoes would not have handled it as well as you did. Hoping life is easier on your going forward. Take care, dude. Just went back to the old post. Your comment was actually the one that convinced me that even if I was right doesn't mean I shouldn't be the adult in the room and apologize. Thank you for your comment. I truly haven't felt this optimistic in a long time. Praying gesture. This is so wholesome. I've got sand in my eye. You're crying, not me. Why is it raining inside while I'm chopping onions? No tears here. I think there is some dust in the air or something. It got in my eyes, too. Allergies this season are making everyone's eyes water. Definitely allergies. Or dust, or onions. Totally not crying over here. I'm just going to turn off this Lifetime movie and watch Shark Week reruns. Mom. Stop cutting onions. It's making me tear up. Me either, is just the rain inside, only on my couch over my head and nowhere else. I'm stealing this one. Made me chuckle. Guys, I think it's perfectly fine to be crying right now without passing it off as sand/onion/rain. This dad did a beautiful thing for his daughter and we are all responding appropriately. I have tears rolling down my cheeks because I have been in his daughter's position and what I wouldn't give to have a dad that apologizes for his mistakes and works to not make those mistakes in the future. It's cool. Let's all hug. I consent to hug. You are correct, I'm crying. This is not tears. Just snort but come out from eyes. Pocket sand. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating and it gets everywhere. Seriously, this is almost Hallmark level wholesome and sweet. Makes me happy to see a positive update. I have an affection erection from reading everything. r/unexpected office, Reddit link. I read that as unexpected orifice and wish I hadn't. I like you. That is incredibly important to learn when dealing with teenagers. Just because they are old enough to know better than to lash out, doesn't mean they have the emotional maturity to not lash out. Unless they have a good model for how to deal appropriately with emotions, it's just a matter of time and growing up. And sometimes even when they have models for good emotional intelligence and maturity. I had a rough time as a teen because I had undiagnosed ADHD and executive dysfunction where I couldn't control my emotions once they got to a certain level. Neither of my parents were exceptional models for emotional intelligence like that. Your stepdaughter is lucky to have you. Especially because it sounds like her bio dad is a dumpster fire. This is going to sound weird as F, so bear with me. You might be her emotional punching bag because she feels safe lashing out at you rather than bio dad. It sounds like she's having that realization now. I know a lot of kids with an abusive parent lash out at the other parent because they can't safely express emotions to their abuser. Therapy and open communication is going to go a long way here. TL, doctor, you're doing the right thing here. I think you have a point with the punching bag thing. My brother was physically abused by our dad and as an adult now will blame our mother for not protecting him, make her feel guilty and bringing up that point every now and then. While not seeming to blame our dad for the abuse that happened in the first place. He knows our mom will feel guilty about it and he gets the reaction he wants from one parent at least, and he knows that our mother won't abandon him for it, while our dad pretends he doesn't remember ever hitting him so he can't get any resolve there. Yeah, that's a pretty well documented reaction. It sucks because he's right, your mom didn't protect him, but your dad sucks even more for doing it. I hate to quote the Reddit tagline of therapy, but if your brother hasn't gotten any, he should. I agree with this so much. I don't talk to my bio mom about it, but I do blame her a lot for the abuse she allowed her husband to inflict on me, though she was abusive as well, just in different ways. I blame them both, though. It took so long for me to start blaming only them and not myself for what they did, and therapy might be suggested a ton on Reddit, but it really is the answer to so much of what we as humans go through. I'm really happy Original Post got his daughter in for therapy. It's going to help her so much, and hopefully one day therapy won't be treated as such a taboo thing. I feel like if every human being had therapy just as a normal part of life, we would be so much better off. Agreed. We all go through things that mess us up, from the richest person all the way to the poorest. Yes. And, imho, the people most vocal in saying they don't need it most. Oh, definitely. People in general tend to treat those closest to them the worst, because they feel like it's safe to do that. The people you love the most are often the ones you're comfortable showing your worst sides to, because you're not as scared of how they'll react. Edit, because I'm scared people will take this the wrong way. I am not talking about actual abuse here. If your family or friends make you feel bad more often than they make you feel good, that's a problem. I just mean that people tend to put on their best face around people they don't know or trust as well. I knew what you meant. Even as an adult, I'll still have ADHD meltdowns on very rare occasions. My parents have basically told me they'd rather me call and meltdown at them than my friends/colleagues/whoever, because they, my parents, understand why it's happening and that anything mean I might say isn't personal. It jumps the line into abuse when there isn't a balance, you both can vent at times, and there isn't an attempt to solve the issue, therapy, coping strategies, etc. Or the other person isn't down for being a sounding board or whatever. It's an old trope about parenting. Parent picks up kid from daycare, and the parent asks them to do something like put their shoes on, and kid immediately starts crying or having a tantrum. The babysitter says I don't know what's wrong, they were fine all day. And the parent is thinking, why does my kid act like this only for me? What am I doing wrong? When in reality the kid has been holding in their emotions all day, and finally the parent they love and trust is here, and they can let it all out. It's a sign of good parenting, not bad. I think she was afraid of getting too close to SF in case he was the reason dad didn't care. She wanted her dad's love and attention and blamed SF. NTA. Yes, you have a point about the punching bag. I felt safe with my dad and stepmom versus my mother and stepmonster, so when I moved in with them I was lashing out at them constantly. I didn't even pull myself together until 2 months before I left for the military a year and a half later. Now my stepmom is one of the people I trust and I always treat my dad with respect now, both of them, of course. This right here. So many times, people post in this sub with butthole things their teens do and the comments are always like NTA, you need to punish the teen further and bully them back to teach a lesson. Of course teens need consequences and to learn lessons, but it is so incredibly important to provide love and unconditional support rather than justice. Commenters in this sub treat teenagers like miniature adults and it drives me nuts. Yeah, We used to think like that until science showed that we don't stop developing emotionally until our 20s. I remember in one of my psychopathology classes, my professor explained why you can't diagnose teens with personality disorders because being a teen is basically having a personality disorder. She was exaggerating, of course, but it stuck with me and reminds me that teenagers aren't there yet emotionally. What's worse is a lot of the teens on here are coming from difficult situations, divorce, abusive families, dead parents, etc. The last thing they need is a dictator in their lives. It's like ops forget the ops, are adults and the teens aren't. The ops want to meet in the middle in Pettyville and confirm to the teen that their assessments of the ops were correct. Sincere question here. Back in the day when people married in their teens, had kids, and died young, are you saying they were immature heads of families? What has physiologically/psychologically changed? In the past, extended family and community was way more involved in your life, so even if you became a parent in your teens, you still could rely on your older relatives and parents for advice and support. In addition, we assume people got married younger than they actually did. For example, by the 16th century, the average age at first marriage was 25 for women and 27 for men in England and the Low Countries. More recently, in the United States, the average age for women at first marriage was 20 to 22 from 1890 to the 1970s, which is much younger than it is today but is still in the teens. This is exactly it. She's lashing out at the person she knows she can lash out at and still be able to count on as someone who loves her. It's so hard to be the parent in this scenario, I know. Ops sounds like an amazing dad. Thank you so much for the update. I was an original commenter too. I told you she was taking it out on you because she knew she could depend on you. I mentioned what my own stepfather said to me. Know that calling you dad was planned long in advance and took every ounce of her courage to speak that word and pretend it was casual. You are a good man and a great dad. Yes, I definitely remember your post. I appreciate your comment. It was very insightful, praying gesture. Thank you. I'm just so happy to hear that she is responding to your efforts and is willing to start building a good relationship. This comment, about the courage it took for her to call you dad, is the one that made me tear up. I'm legit crying reading this. This girl is honestly so lucky to have you in her life, and it's so rare to see someone on Reddit who was definitely not the butthole but still took the constructive comments to heart. You rock. But the most exciting news of them all is when getting out the car on her way home from therapy, she said, and I quote, "Thanks, Dad." She's never called me dad before, so honestly I've been riding off that high for the last 2 hours. I'm smiling while reading this. Don't worry, I'm smiling every time I reread this too, smiley face. Out of curiosity, what did she call you before? I have a stepdad who has been there since I was 2 and all of my memories are of calling him dad. I've always called both my stepparents by their names. But interestingly enough, I usually refer to my dad and stepmom as my parents, and when I mention my mom and stepdad I say mom and stepdad, so, woman shrugging. That sounds like a complicated situation where both sets of parents are in your life, so it makes sense, your naming convention. In my case, my biological father was an abusive butthole, so I never met him, smiley face. I do the same with my dad and stepmom. I call her by her name but always refer to them both as my parents. She came into my life as an adult, so I was introduced to her by her name. My stepmom has done so much to support me. Not that my stepdad hasn't, but I'm kind of estranged from my mother, so he's basically an intermediary at this point. So it feels natural to call my stepmom my parent. She calls me her daughter as well. Same. She's been there for me more than my mom ever had. She recently got into an accident and was lucky to live, so I'm super grateful she's still around and called her mom once. Weird feeling, but a title she more than deserves. My partner refers to his dad and stepmom as dad and stepmom's name, then refers to him mom as simple mom. But he loves them all equally. When my dad married my mom, he said, "You can keep calling me name, you can call me dad, you can call me whatever you want, as long as it isn't late for dinner." He came out swinging with the dad jokes, woman facepalming. I never met my dad, and my first stepdad came into my life when I was 8 months old. I called him dad because he is who I knew at such a young age. My mom and him got divorced, and even though she had 2 of my brothers with him, I never really saw him after that. She immediately moved in with her new future husband and stayed married to him and had my youngest brother with him. I moved back in with him for a while after they divorced because we were still close. We don't talk really anymore either. Which seems to be a depressing trend in my life. But I always just called him Padre, my way of jokingly calling him Dad. Even though he is the one I thought of as such. I'll never understand how you can basically raise a child from 8 adulthood and then just kind of drop them like a hot potato. Not even because of the divorce. Now when we interact occasionally on social media, I never know what to write. Such men are nice to their stepkids as a relationship investment in the mother. They're generally emotionally immature men. From your description, this might ring a bell. Web link. Wow. Thank you for sharing this. I can definitely draw parallels in both of my mother's marriages. And I zoned in on the lost child on the outside. Even though my second stepdad and mother divorced, I still went to visit with him once a week for like 5 years. Moved back in for a year or two during that time. But for some reason, when I started my own family, hands were washed, I guess. I can only try to do my best raising my children in a better environment. Not only will you be dad, if she starts a family, you'll be the grandpa that matters too. My siblings and I didn't really give our stepmom a fair chance through our teenage years, but we got older to realize who was actually there, helping support the family. Now, she is the grandma that sees the kids the most and the grandma they are most bonded to. They have no concept of step-grandma, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Keep up the great work. For real, I teared up a little. Don't know how you didn't turn into a blubbering mess right there, haha. I'm 9 months pregnant, won't lie, that part made me bawl like a freaking baby. As a parent, and as a kid of divorced parents, this got me right in the feels. Just keep loving that kid, and try to understand that she is really hurting when it comes to her dad. I remember that same struggle and the heartbreak when you realize that your parent prefers their lives without you in it. You core parents are angry that you hold on to anything good you get from that crafty parent, because it's insignificant in comparison to everything else, but it's all the love that crafty parent has shown, and so it's cherished until reality becomes a crushing weight. Yeah, I felt the love here. She was obviously really hurt and was deflecting earlier. You handled this perfectly. You're good father. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.